All right, well, a very good evening, everybody. I'm your cruise host, Jason, and thank you so much for joining us back here for All Access Pass. How we doing, my friends? Are we good? Now, obviously, many of you know today is the turnover day, so we had talent getting off, talent getting on. We changed some of the first half of the cruise's talent for the second half of the cruise's talent. And the gentleman I'm about to welcome to the stage, he's not new to Star Vista Live. He's, in fact, performed on some of our other cruises. But it is about time we got him on the Malt Shop Memories. He is a wonderful human being. I've had the pleasure of working with him on multiple occasions and interviewing him a few times, so it's always great to get him back. Do me a favor, please welcome out the one and only Mr. Felix Cavaliere. Thank you.
Hello, hello, hello.
Felix, how are you, sir? How are you?
I'm good.
You look good.
Thank you.
What have you been up to, first of all?
Oh, just working on the road and writing music and enjoying life.
You still write music?
Oh, yeah.
Every day? How often do you
Well,
write?
not every day, but I moved to Nashville, Tennessee because it's like the writing capital. And I just love to write, yeah.
And do you write as often and as prodigiously as you did, or I mean, has it gotten more or less, or?
Well, I mean, before when you're of course making records, you're writing for your records. It's a direct kind of channel to your product. So now you write, and I get together with other people and write. The only difference today is you have 5 people when you write a song. So
All sitting right next to you.
it's very
right? Yeah.
different, very different. The guy who does the drums is a writer now. True.
And do you write mostly for yourself or for others?
Well, I really like to write for others, what I'm saying, because, you get one of these young, kind of talented country stars or somebody to do one of your songs, and they sell.
There's something to be said for selling. Yeah.
You know what it is? It's not the money, it's the money.
Now, truer words, my friends. Now, backstage, as I came sprinting in and around the corner and had a brief moment to say hello to you and welcome back, you kind of made we kind of made a couple of passing comments and quasi jokes about some things just happen, man. Entertainment is a fickle world, right? And I mean, we're beholden to the whim to a certain extent. Tell me about some experiences you've. What is it like being in? We have changes, like today. We have some changes, obviously, with entertainment. I'm sure this is not the first time you've experienced it. You can use the
Well,
microphone.
I mean, you have to understand that when we started, which is when you people probably started listening to music, there were no nice venues like this. I mean, this is gorgeous. I'm saying, I mean, we used to follow like the rodeo. We used to follow the circus. We used to go to basketball courts. So seriously, I mean, you'd have what they call them, proms or dances, and they'd be in high school gyms. So when a high school gym sounds like this, hello, 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 hello. So I mean, as far as getting proper sound, it was impossible. And I remember one time when we worked there, we worked at Shea Stadium many years ago, and they had this revolving stage, and my drummer fell off. He went.
Did he keep time though? Did he keep time?
He kept time on
That's
the
all that
cymbal.
matters. So you kept him. You kept
So
him.
it's happened more than once, and I guess as an older artist, you kind of get used to it. Like, and anything can happen,
It is. It's adversity. My grandfather, funny enough, speaking of people of that genre, my grandfather always used to say to me, "Adversity reveals character." Adversity reveals character. That was always his saying. Whenever I would get worked up about something, he'd just, adversity reveals character. Take a breath, deal with it, move on. So if you don't mind, for those folks that aren't entirely familiar with you from the beginning, how does a young Felix get into music? How does it start?
Well, it starts off because my mom saw talent when I was 5 years old and forced me to have piano lessons. That's how it started. And seriously, I mean, I had 3 lessons a week for 8 years. And I put this in. I'm writing a book, and my sister, who's out here, doesn't like me to say this, but my mom was so intense on getting me to those piano lessons that we had a little place where we used to play baseball. She would park on home plate. Seriously.
Mess up everybody's game until Felix was in the car.
You're going, but Mom, you're on home plate. We can't play. Get it?
She's like, aha.
So anyway, that's how I started, and seriously.
At 5 years old.
At 5. And I never dreamt I'd be a musician. Seriously, I come from a family of medicine, and so I really thought I was going to be in that profession. And it's just happened. You know, I went to college and I went to Syracuse and I started a band, and I just really never looked back.
Do you remember what age you were when you fell in love with it?
Well, the best story I could tell you is that, I had to really make some serious decisions because, I was a pre-med student. I was going to be a junior, and I was invited to go to Europe because this group called Joey D and the Starlighters was on tour. And their organist had just gotten married, and he was lonely, so he went home, and they saw me. They saw me in the Catskill Mountains. And how about any of you remember the Catskill Mountains?
Catskills.
A lot of fun, right? Well, that's where I really got my start. We took a summer off, and that was it. So I went to Europe, and I had to make a decision, a serious decision, whether to, try to be a musician or to go back to school. And so I happened to be working, and this is also documented, with the Beatles. Now, the Beatles at that time were not known in America yet. So I walked into this place, and they were opening literally for Joey D, which is kind of funny because the next year they became. But anyway,
The Beatles.
I saw these guys. Everybody was screaming and hollering, and the women were jumping, and I said, "This is what I want to do. This is it."
I think Chubby said something similar just 2 days ago. Yeah, it's funny how it revolves around women quite often. And at what point did you realize? I think there's a lot of people who love it. There's a lot of people who think, "Gosh, I'd love to do this," but there's not many who do it. So at what point do you realize I can make a career out of it? This is something I can really do?
Well, the audience really determines that.
Sure.
Seriously, I mean, you go out there and you work, and people want to hear your work, and come to the shows and buy your records. Then obviously you can do it. But the sad part is when people don't realize that, and they're still doing it after 15, 20 years. It's sad. No, you can't do it, dude.
Someone's got to tell them at that point.
Somebody's got to say,
Yeah.
"Excuse me."
They're surrounded by really nice people, is what that is.
right.
Yeah. No, you look great. What was your? I love to ask this question. What was your "I made it" story? Like, for instance, I asked Mickey Dolans one time. I said, "Mickey, how did you know you'd made it?" And he said he was walking into a mall, and all of a sudden, everyone started running at the doors, and he thought there was a fire. So he ripped open the door and said, "Come on, come on," and then realized they were chasing him. And that was the moment. That was the moment Mickey realized, "Holy cat, they're for me. This is something." Do you have an "I made it" moment in your head where, wow, you're in front of a crowd or in a show or anything that?
Well, a lot of times, obviously, when you have a number one record, you think you've made it. Now, what made it means, I'm not sure what made it means but I remember the first time that we heard our song on a radio. That was pretty cool. Anybody know Cousin Brucey here?
Yeah.
Well, we were walking down the street, had a little tiny portable, radio, and we were told that Brucey was going to play our song. I don't know what, I think it was "I Ain't Gonna Eat Up My Heart Anymore." So we're walking down the street, and all of a sudden he says, "And now this young group from New York called," I think we were called the Young Rascals at that time, And, well, man, that was it. Now, we didn't make it by any means, but we made it.
But that's a moment.
That's a moment. It was great.
That is a cool moment.
And even today, when I'm walking in supermarkets, I'm going in like this, I hear, "Groovin'," and I go, "That's me, that's me, man." Nobody knows that.
In the back room, they're like,
True,
"This
they don't
guy's
know.
been here for 3 hours.
me.
He's going aisle to aisle.
We're
What's
going
he
around
doing?"
to every speaker listening. How come?
Get him out of the dairy section. What is he doing? So tell us about the Young Rascals. How did the Young Rascals become the Young Rascals? And
Well, as I say, at that moment in England, in Germany it was, and that I was with them, the Beatles, I kind of saw what they were doing. I saw, wow, this is a singing group. They weren't really a musical group. They were okay, but they were really a singing group. So I said, how about if I get guys that can sing and can play? And that's what I did. And I found guys that were working in New York. They actually, three of us was working with Joey D, and one of them was working in a place called the Metropole, and that was our drummer, Dino Danelli, who was a great drummer. And it worked. It really worked because literally we had a deal in 6 months.
6 months.
6 months.
So you're not the normal story for
No,
musicians.
because
yeah.
no, seriously. I mean, with all due respect, this was a really powerful group. It was powerful. We could sing, we could play. Because a lot of groups have one guy that kind of stands out.
The leader.
And we had four. Because everybody in the group, had previously had their own group, and they were like, strong. So when you came to see us, get out of the way, boy. It was a hot band.
And at what point in your career did you? I mean, you're known as the king of blue-eyed soul, right? I mean, your blue-eyed soul background. At what point did your sound turn into that? And how did it?
Well, you know how I explain that. I told you when I first got here that I live in Tennessee. Does anybody know that I don't come from Tennessee? Tell the truth. Where do I come from? It's just
New York.
Exactly. Come on, we know. So it's the same thing. Exactly. You're from Pelham, yeah? Well, oh, fantastic. I certainly am. So it doesn't surprise anybody. So when I sing or when we sang, we thought we're doing English music. It came out, I like R&B. But it was not a conscious thing. It was a subconscious thing. And one of the reasons is because we were very fortunate coming from New York to have Alan Freed brought his rock and roll to New York. So we heard everything. All these guys that are on this stage coming to these shows on this Malt Shop Cruise, these are guys that I loved and emulated, I mean, I knew all their songs. I knew all their words. So it's really a thrill for me to be, with them.
That's very cool.
And I also like being the youngest guy in the room.
Yeah, that's. He's here with all the old acts.
I'm here with the old guys.
Yeah, he's been on our 60s cruise, which is our Flower Power cruise. So the Flower Power cruise. That's right. So
Yes.
those are the younger acts, and
I like this guy.
yeah, exactly. Now, as you know, as we've done this before, I always like to open up questions to the audience, and I have them write them down so it makes it easier for us. Leslie from Atlanta wants to know, how long were you with the Young Rascals?
Well, we really, our tenure was only about 5 years. And then my ex-partner there, Eddie, decided he wanted to go home. So he left. And so the group actually was only intact for 5 years. And then we did an extra 2 with kind of a semblance of the Rascals.
And Pat, all the way from Long Island, says, tell us about Pelham High School and how the actual Rascals came together.
Well, we weren't, I was out of school by then. I was out of Pelham. But one of the things is that, my family, we lived right across the street from the high school. So when we first rehearsed, very, very beginning of the Rascals kind of learning songs, it was right across the street from the high school. So the bus stop was right in front of our house. So all these kids kept running up there. So we knew we kind of had something going because, nobody ever heard of us before. We were playing and they heard it and came. So, yeah.
You were doing sidewalk concerts.
Sidewalk.
That's good enough. You got to start somewhere. John, who is from Steamboat Springs in Colorado, says, good lovin', 1966. Great hits to 72. Then, was it the next song or loss of camaraderie?
You mean that caused the breakup?
I think so, yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's so silly. Seriously, the breakup of our band was the stupidest thing known to man. The reason is because if you're successful, and you don't happen to particularly like the guy standing next to you, so what? I mean, seriously, it's so silly, But then, of course, we qualify as the silliest band in the world because, because you hear about the Eagles, they hate each other. These guys, they can't stand each other, but they're millionaires. Okay, so I don't like you, but I'm rich. So it's the stupidest thing, and I, as I say, it's kind of embarrassing for me to tell you that. But there's no reason we broke up. We never had any reason. There was no embezzlement. There was nobody stealing anybody's wife. It was just...
It's the music business, folks. It's the
what
music
happens
business.
in music,
Yeah.
Seriously, you're going boom, your group's done. Done.
Blue-eyed soul.
It's over.
Gus from New Jersey asks, what happened to Gene Cornish? Is he okay?
Well, recently, there was a recent episode. We got together this last year and did a semblance of a Rascal reunion, and Gene, unfortunately, had a little bit of an event on stage. That's what the cardiologists call it, right? An event. Yeah, he kind of went down, and thank goodness he's okay. So, yes.
Good. Felix says, are any of your children in the music world? And if so, what do they do?
Well, it's different when you grow up with a parent that's in the music business. There's no illusions about what this business is about. This is a very difficult business. So even though I've got like at least one child who's a phenomenal singer. Her name is Aria. So we named her properly.
Aptly named. Yeah, well done.
She had a little stint in the music business, and she decided she was going to go home and have kids, and she did. So the answer to that is no.
How many grandkids do you have?
I have 6.
6 grandkids.
Yay!
Are you a pop? Are you a granddad? Are you a grandpa? What are you?
I'm a poppy.
You're a poppy. He's poppy.
You guys poppies out there?
Any poppies? Yeah. I love that question because how many are grandpa? Who are grandpa? Grandpas, yeah. Granddads, yeah. There's always a couple of pops. There's all the there's a pop over there. I love that. All right, next question. What would you be doing if you didn't get into music, and would it be legal? Sorry, that was my add-on. What would you be doing if you wouldn't have gotten into the music industry?
Well, that's a good question, and unfortunately, I don't have a good answer. But and I probably would have kept in the medical world. I still enjoy, healing and knowing about healing and herbal and all kinds of things. So it's in my genetic makeup.
Did it bother you? This is Terry from Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Did it bother you when you found out another group was also called the Rascals?
There's quite a few, actually. As a matter of fact, the reason that we were the Young Rascals is not because we were young. That's the simple reason. The real reason was because there was a group called the Harmonica Rascals. Now, does anybody remember the Harmonica Rascals? Milton Berle, the guys used to beat up with the guy. They had the name. So our manager decided, without asking us, he was going to call us the Young Rascals. I hated it. Now, let me explain why, okay? Because for years, these guys used to come knocking on my door and say, did that dog really have a circle around his eye? You get it?
I got a pickle. Yeah.
We're not never mind. Leave.
Those are the little... Never mind. Yeah. Pat and Charles from Nashville said that we love that you live in Nashville, and we wonder why you... Great decision, by the way. Why did you choose?
Music City, USA. Trust me, Music City, USA. And the reason is because, and I say this a lot, but this is true. When I first went to Nashville, I met some people. They said, oh, there's a bank downtown. I got to take you to the bank. And why is that? Well, they got a special department for musicians and songwriters. I said, you're kidding. I said, we got the same thing in New York. It's called the Exit.
This way, please.
True.
Carol, who comes to us from, specifically Syracuse University. I think she's probably right here. Yep. How long did your group with the 5 coins, with the 5 coins, last?
The Escorts. I was Escorts up there.
Yes, the Escorts, sir. Yeah.
No.
Oh.
No, basically that scene up there was, Chubby was around in those days that the twist was really happening. People were starting really to get tuned into new music and dancing, and I started right in that era at all the places that were to work in Syracuse. Oh, downtown.
Saw you in Greenwich Village.
Yeah, downtown. You see, there's an old saying: if you remember anything from the '60s, you weren't there.
That's why she's not sure if there were gold coins or not.
And I'm saying it could have very well be exactly what you said, but I don't know.
She actually politely put, she saw you in Greenwich Village a zillion years ago. I don't know if that...
Thank you. See, that's what I mean. Way back.
So tell us a little bit about now, you took piano lessons for all the time and for a while. What got you into the Hammond?
Oh, that's a great story. It's a friend of mine, said, come on, we got to go up to, there's a place called New Rochelle, New York. I don't know if you guys know New Rochelle. But there was this black club up there, And so I don't know how we got in because we were underage. And, I walk in and there's a trio, an organ, a drum, and a sax. Now, I had never heard, other than in church, an organ where the guy plays the bass with his foot. He plays the rhythm with his left hand. He solos over here and he sings. I said, man, that's the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life. It really, I just went like, look at that, man.
Especially for a kid that's been playing Chopin
Oh,
for the
man,
last 8
absolutely. I
years.
said,
Yeah.
man, look at this. This is so cool. So the group, I remember the group was called the Mighty Cravers. And I said, I got to get one of those things. Well, I'll tell you, I don't know how much of the story you want to hear, but so I started inquiring. Well, the only place it was Macy's. It was so Macy's. I don't know, we didn't really have a Macy's in Westchester. So I took the train, went down to New York. Now I'm about this big, see? So I walk in. I'm looking for a Hammond organ. It's $3,000. Oh, whew, it's $3,000. But it was a great story because they had a special room. You know, I mean, like this was like, you know, he said, it's in there. So this guy, whose name was Mr. Silverstein, I'll never forget him. He says, go ahead, go in, son. Now, he knew I couldn't buy the pedals. You know?
Couldn't take the cover.
But he let me go. He let me go in, you know, and it was so cool.
That's kind. That is cool.
It was really cool.
So were you classically trained then, or were you when you were
Classically trained, and you know, I had to learn. You know, there's so many stories. I could go on all night, but we have a lot of stories.
They're
I'll
not
tell you
here
them
for
on stage.
Felix.
I'll tell you at the show.
I was gonna say they're not here for me. Sir,
I'll tell you
so
this.
that's
I'll
just-
tell
yeah.
you at the show. But so I go to high school, going to junior high, and you know how you do the what do you call the alphabetical? Well, this guy in front of me was CAL, and I'm CAV. You know, I became one of my dearest friends. So I didn't know him. He came from another school. It was the 7th grade. He says, "Hey, you like rock and roll?" Never heard of rock and roll. Didn't know what he was talking. So I said, "Yeah, man, I like it."
Of course I do.
So I went home, and my father had given me one of those little kind of like, you know, portable radios, whatever you call it. Turn on transistor guy. There you go. Turn that sucker on. Alan Freed. Whew, that did it.
Dawn goes classical. Here comes
Well,
the
I
Hammond.
heard Jerry Lee Lewis. I heard Fats Domino. I heard the Smoke, the Drifters, the Coasters. This is me, man. I loved it. I just really sank right into learning, you know, a whole new genre because I really never heard it.
Now, was there anyone in particular that you gravitated towards, or group that you gravitated towards at that time?
Well, most of the keyboard players, you know, like for example Ray Charles. I never heard anything like that. And I don't think we're going to hear anything like that.
Yeah.
He was phenomenal. But I heard this, you know, this kind of like gospel kind of R&B thing, and I said, man, what is that? Really enjoyed it.
Well, Shelly and Angelo, I kind of led into this with some of those questions from Delray Beach. Do you still play classical, and what have you done with the piano? Have you still trained since your early days, or has it all been rock and roll?
You know, it's kind of what they call arthritis. A lot of this stuff happens to your hands. So, you know, like you got to go a little slower. And, you know, but I still listen to classical music. Classical music still fills my mind, you know.
You ever play it at all? I mean, is it
No,
something that settles
I mean,
you? Or?
you have to continue that to really play it because the level that I was getting to was pretty good. You know, I really did it. But you have to practice. You got to practice that. There's no way you can say, well, I'll go after 5-10 years. No, it doesn't work.
Chuck, who comes all the way from Orlando, says, are any of the members from 1999 Epcot group still with you?
Yes, the drummer.
Always the drummer.
The drummer's with me.
Once you find a drummer that can keep time,
That's
you always have the drummer with you. That's the photo from the Epcot group right there?
Yeah. See, the secret with drummers, you got to feed them.
Yeah. And then once you feed them.
Once they eat, they're fine.
Yeah. David is curious, other than kind of what we already talked about, when and why did you change your group name from the Young Rascals to just the Rascals?
Well, I couldn't stand the name Young. So basically, seriously, and you know, our manager did this without asking us. And a name to a group is it's not quite as serious as naming your child, but it's second. So when they came up with Young, I said, couldn't you do any better than that? Like, you know, the Pink Rascals, or, you know, like, you know, something a little bit more like hip. So as soon as we had, you know, so-called status, I said, man, screw it. Let them screw us.
There you go.
And they did.
Yeah, right. Immediately.
Only kidding. Right.
So how much do you tour now? What does Felix Cavaliere do now musically? How often do you get out and perform? And
Well, we get out quite a bit. You know, we get, you know, thanks to you all.
Yeah.
You know, we have an audience, so we're here for you, you know.
how many dates
we
did?
got
How many
about 40
dates?
to 40 to 50.
40 to 50 a
40 to
year.
50, yeah.
That's still a pretty heavy
It's
schedule.
pretty good, you know, and you know, hopefully it'll stay like that. We'll see.
That's amazing. And now I know we've had you on Flower Power a couple times. So when Alan chatted with you about coming to do Malt Shop, other than being the youngest guy in the room, what'd you think about coming to do Malt Shop? Were there any concerns about the crossover? Obviously, it's a little bit.
Okay, so here's the concern. Okay, my manager who's here, where is he?
He's hiding in the back.
He says, do me a favor, be careful. Don't play too loud for these people.
Take your shots, folks.
He says, you got to be careful. See, we got the Altacacas out there. We got to watch. I'm telling you. So I told him, are you kidding me?
They said their hearing's gone. Play louder. Yeah.
Come on. Absolutely. Very good. I like that. But no, I had no concern because, look, seriously, music travels all through the generations. And, we're really very appreciative of you all being around like this. Let me tell you, it's very cool to see people that love music. Well, you're great.
Now, are there any last words you want to share with your fans? I mean, you're not on stage tonight, obviously, but next couple of nights, you're on stage. You get the orange crowd first, I believe. I think orange has you tomorrow night, and then blue the night after. So, any last words for the Malt Shop folks before we get Blue Eyed Soul?
Well, we're just looking forward to playing for you all and seeing those smiling faces. And once again, thank you for being here and with us.
I know we're full of them on this ship, but it isn't every day in life that you get a true icon on stage like this man right here. Do me a favor, please help me thank the one and only Mr. Felix Cavaliere.
Thank you.